I just think life is about being ready for anything, and where are you gonna find the positive in all things. And I choose not to judge anybody else. I don't want to be judged, so how can I judge another human being? I just want to.
In a world saturated with headlines, scandals, and sound bites, some voices remain notably quiet until they don't. In a media landscape where nearly every personal detail of public figures is scrutinized, dissected, and spun, the people who choose silence often leave us with more questions than answers. Sometimes that silence isn't just strategic. It's protective, personal, even political. And every now and then, when those quiet voices finally speak, they do so not with fire and fury, but with calm reflections that force us to listen a little more closely. Marla Maples, actress, mother, wellness advocate, and most famously, the second wife of Donald J. Trump, has largely kept her distance from the political maelstrom surrounding her ex-husband. While media swarms have descended on everyone connected to Trump, Maples maintained a sense of restraint. But now, at 61, she's offered some rare insight into her perspective. And while she's not shouting from the rooftops, her words carry weight and perhaps even some surprises. Marla Maples is a name many associate with the Trump saga, but reducing her to just Trump's second wife is like skimming a headline and missing the story. To really understand who Marla Maples is beyond the gossip columns and campaign flashbacks, you have to zoom out from the Trump bubble and take a look at her actual life, one that's been more complex, colorful, and quietly resilient than most people realize. Born in a small town in Georgia in 1963, Maples grew up with Southern roots and a drive to be in the spotlight, not for controversy, but for performance. She had a deep love for theater, dance, and self-expression long before she met Donald Trump. She appeared in beauty pageants and started landing small roles in television and film throughout the 80s and 90s. Maples even made it to Broadway in the Will Rogers Follies and showed up on Dancing with the Stars years later, showcasing both talent and an enduring public interest in her that had little to do with politics. And here's the twist. She's long been passionate about wellness, spirituality, and inner growth. While the media often typecast her as the other woman or a footnote in Trump's timeline, Maples built a different kind of life, one that included meditation retreats, speaking engagements on holistic living, and a deep connection to spiritual practices. She's talked about crystals and energy work in interviews, released a wellness podcast, and even dropped a music album with inspirational and meditative themes. Not exactly your typical tabloid fare. Still, the headlines always found a way to circle back to Trump. Her relationship with him, which began under highly public circumstances, ignited the tabloid culture of the early 90s. The infamous affair, followed by a high-profile wedding at the Plaza Hotel in 1993, made her a staple in gossip magazines. When she and Trump welcomed Tiffany that same year, the spotlight only intensified. But after their divorce in 1999, Maples took a different path. Instead of capitalizing on her association with Trump, she stepped back. No tell-all books, no reality shows, no cable news commentary. It's almost unheard of in the age of oversharing, especially for someone with so many opportunities to cash in. This wasn't just personal discretion, it was a calculated silence. That brings us to one of the most fascinating parts of Marla Maples' story. her strategic distance from Donald Trump, especially during his political rise. When Trump ran for president in 2016, media outlets scrambled to find any quote, any reaction, any angle from Marla. After all, here was someone who had lived with him, married him, and raised a child with him. Surely she had something to say. Well, she didn't. Or rather, she chose not to. One quote from The Telegraph years earlier suggested that Maples had said, "If he runs for president, I'll tell people what he's really like." That quote resurfaced and exploded online. But Maples denied it, calling it fabricated or misinterpreted. And she didn't follow up with any juicy expose or sit-down interview. Why? Because of Tiffany, Maples has made it clear again and again that her primary motivation is shielding her daughter from unnecessary chaos. Whatever her personal feelings might be toward Trump, she's never let them take center stage, because she doesn't want to be the reason Tiffany's relationship with her father suffers. That maternal restraint, especially in the face of relentless media pressure, is telling. It paints a picture of someone deeply protective, not just of her daughter's emotional well-being but of her own integrity. In recent years, however, the silence has started to shift just a bit. Maples has shown a willingness to engage more publicly, though always with caution. Whether that's appearing at events, speaking on broader themes of personal growth, or gently reshaping her public image, she's walking a fine line between self-expression and discretion. So who is Marla Maples beyond the Trump narrative? A performer, a wellness advocate, a fiercely private mother, and perhaps most importantly, someone who's spent decades resisting the easy route of tabloid fame. Instead of defining herself by the drama, she's built a quieter, more intentional path. And that might just be the most surprising thing of all. In a media landscape where political opinions are often shouted, Marla Maples is a curious outlier. Her approach isn't loud, it isn't direct, it's not even particularly confrontational, but it is deliberate. And nowhere is that more evident than in her rare, revealing interview with the Daily Beast, a moment where the woman often cast in silence finally spoke with nuance. During this interview, Maples didn't come out swinging. He didn't launch into a tirade about her ex-husband, nor did she echo the MAGA mantra. Instead, she quietly carved out space for her own identity, one that stood distinctly apart from the Trump brand. When asked about her beliefs, she said simply, "I believe in gay and lesbian rights. I believe everyone on this planet has a right to choice." That single line said more than 1,000 political tweets ever could. In a few words, she positioned herself on the opposite side of many of the platforms her ex-husband publicly endorsed during his presidency. Without naming names or calling anyone out, she clarified who she is. And that clarity, wrapped in grace rather than aggression, was arguably more powerful. What's striking is how intentional her tone was. Rather than stoke division or ride a wave of anti-Trump sentiment, she doubled down on values like inclusivity and mutual understanding. In today's sharply polarized culture, her calls for dialogue and openness can actually feel radical, especially given her proximity to one of the most divisive political figures in modern history. But Maples wasn't playing politics. She was defining herself. And that quiet self-definition continues to echo when she talks about her role as a mother. Because if there's one area where she consistently speaks without ambiguity, it's parenting. When it comes to raising Tiffany Trump, Maples becomes not just thoughtful, but clear-eyed. This isn't just co-parenting with a high-profile ex. This is guiding a child through one of the most complex family dynamics in American public life. From interviews and appearances, it's evident that Marla sees motherhood as both a gift and a form of resistance. She's openly shared how she raised Tiffany with core values that stand in contrast to the typical Trumpian worldview: openness, emotional awareness, curiosity, and self-reflection. Maples has spoken about encouraging her daughter to stand up for what she believes in, and to be fully prepared mentally and emotionally if her father were to return to the presidency. That phrasing alone says a lot. She doesn't say to support him if he returns or celebrate it. She says, be prepared. It's a mother's protective instinct playing out in a very political context. Says, what's more, she's signaling that she wants Tiffany to think critically, not just follow a family legacy. It's easy to forget that Tiffany Trump grew up mostly outside the Trump spotlight. While her half-siblings were at boardrooms, campaign trails, and social media battlegrounds, Tiffany was raised in California, often under the radar. That's no accident. Marla intentionally gave her a quieter life, one where she could form her own opinions, develop her own identity, and step into the world on her own terms. And this dual-world upbringing, one foot in the Trump empire, the other in a more spiritual, liberal, introspective world, has defined Marla's parenting philosophy. She's never tried to cut Tiffany off from her father, but she has worked hard to give her daughter tools to navigate both realities. It's a delicate balance, respecting Tiffany's right to have a relationship with her father, while ensuring that relationship doesn't eclipse who she is or what she values. You can see this tightrope walk even in public events. Marla shows up for her daughter. She stands beside her, whether at campaign events, graduation, or high-profile galas. But she rarely draws attention to herself. She's not trying to be the star of the show. She's there in support, on her terms. So when you put all of this together, Marla's quiet, ideological stance, her avoidance of media spectacle, and her deep intentionality as a parent, it tells a very different story than the one tabloids have been pushing for decades. This isn't just Trump's ex. This is a woman navigating a complicated legacy with tact, subtlety, and a steady moral compass. In an age when every public figure seems to either go full throttle or vanish entirely, Maples offers a third way. Speak with purpose, protect what matters most, and let your values shine, even if they whisper instead of roar. So why now? Why speak out in 2025? One likely reason is that Trump is once again front and center in American politics. And this time around, the stakes feel even higher. With a major immigration bill, tax reforms, and environmental rollbacks dominating the headlines, Trump's return to power is no longer hypothetical. It's actual policy. And while Maples still treads carefully, there's a growing sense that she wants her own views, her true voice, to finally be heard. She recently told the Evening Standard that she's not sitting back anymore and is available if needed, even suggesting half jokingly or not, that she'd be open to joining Trump's campaign, possibly even as a vice presidential pick. Is this political ambition, strategic positioning, or just a woman reclaiming her narrative? Whatever the motivation, it's clear. Marla Maples is no longer hiding behind polite neutrality. The biggest curveball in Marla Maples' recent string of interviews, her open suggestion that she might be ready to step into the political arena, not just as a commentator or supportive ex-wife, but possibly even as a member of Donald Trump's team. Yes, that Marla Maples, who for decades sidestepped controversy and interviews with the grace of someone keenly aware of the chaos they could unleash. Now, in 2025, she says, "I'm ready. I am available if needed." The internet lit up. Some laughed, brushing it off as a bizarre moment or even a PR stunt. Others froze, wondering if she was serious. But beneath the memes and mockery, there's something important happening here. Marla Maples, long relegated to the margins of Trump world, is raising her hand and saying she's ready to step into the center. It's easy to assume this is just a throwaway comment or a publicity move. After all, celebrity figures flirting with politics isn't exactly new. But this hits differently. This is someone who actively avoided inserting herself into Donald Trump's political life for years, who made a career out of restraint. So for her to now entertain the idea of joining the campaign, even hypothetically, suggests something has shifted. Is this a political pivot? A woman reclaiming agency over how she's viewed? Or perhaps just an impulsive moment during a headline-hungry interview? No matter the motive, the comment represents a radical transformation from the version of Maples we've known. Gone is the cautious, soft-spoken figure always careful not to rock the boat too hard. In her place is someone far more assertive, willing to be seen and, crucially, to be heard. It may also reflect a sense of urgency. With Donald Trump once again in office and 2025 already marked by major policy upheaval, Marla may feel it's time to make her voice count on her terms. And if those terms include entering the very political sphere she once avoided, then maybe, just maybe, she's got more to say than anyone anticipated. Of course, this bold reintroduction didn't land quietly. Public reaction was immediate, intense, and, as with most things related to Trump, deeply divided. On the pro-Trump side, many welcomed her comments. They saw her defense of the former president, particularly around his legal challenges, as loyalty long overdue. Her openness to stepping into a formal role, for some, it was seen as a redemptive arc. Trump supporters even began speculating, half seriously, half strategically, about the optics of a Trump-Maples ticket, or what it might look like for Tiffany Trump, with Marla's guidance, to emerge as a next-generation political figure. But not everyone bought into the new narrative. Critics, especially on the left, questioned her sincerity. How could someone who has quietly embraced liberal values, who has spoken about inclusivity, gay rights, and spiritual growth, also consider aligning herself with a political movement that has frequently contradicted those very ideals? For many, it felt like a contradiction too big to ignore. Some accused her of opportunism. After years of silence, why speak now, and why like this? Others took issue with the lack of depth in her political statements, praising unity and dialogue, but not offering clear stances on the major issues shaping Trump's second term. Media outlets were equally torn. Some outlets praised the boldness of her shift, while others treated it like a spectacle, another surreal twist in the ongoing Trump drama. But one thing was certain: everyone was talking about Marla Maples again, and not just in a historical footnote kind of way. What makes all of this even more fascinating is that Marla is still, in many ways, an enigma. She's not easily categorized. She's defended Trump, but distanced herself from his politics. She's expressed liberal values, but now seems open to aligning with a conservative administration. She's raised Tiffany largely outside the Trump spotlight, but now talks about joining the political machine herself. This tension between who she was, who she is, and who she might become is what makes Marla Maples' reemergence in 2025 so compelling. Whether she's seriously considering public office or simply finding her voice after years in the background, one thing is clear: she's not the silent ex-wife anymore. She's stepping into the storm. And this time, she's not whispering. Ultimately, Marla Maples' story isn't just about Trump. It's about what it means to live in the public eye, to have your identity constantly overshadowed by someone else's power, and to still find your voice. Her journey, from tabloid scandal to silent parent to politically curious elder stateswoman of sorts, is a study in how people evolve when the cameras keep rolling. Maples didn't publish a tell-all. She didn't break down on national television. She made a few careful statements, and yet they've resonated far beyond the few words she shared. Sometimes silence is its own kind of statement, and sometimes breaking that silence, especially after decades, tells us more than we expected. Whether you view Marla Maples as a quietly noble figure, a political opportunist, or something in between, one thing is clear: she's no longer content to be a footnote in someone else's story. As the 2024 election cycle barrels forward, and as Trump attempts to regain the White House, the people in his orbit, past and present, will face renewed scrutiny. And now, we can count Marla Maples among them. What do you think about her recent comments? Do they reflect genuine beliefs, strategic thinking, or something else entirely? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this deep dive thought-provoking, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more insightful explorations into the people and moments shaping our headlines. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.